here on game night. Flyers, unexpected win. Happy they won. Shocking they won. And they go and make two interesting moves this afternoon. We'll get to all of that this hour. Plus, Sixers back in action tonight. The third straight game for no Tyrese Maxey. Game will still be on the radio here on 97.3 ESPN, but Sixers are in a predicament right now. All that and Phillies. Spring training is underway. We're kind of at the moment of spring training where we're starting to get an idea of what the most important questions are. And we'll talk about the Phillies with Scott Lauber, Phillies beat reporter from Philadelphia Inquirer, coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. As always, you guys can join the conversation at 609-403-0973. And your DMs are available into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. A couple things to get to before we get to the Phillies conversation, because I have a lot of questions I have for Scott Lauber about, his expectations for this lineup. Is the bullpen getting any more clear? And I don't know Scott Lauber's perspective is on Kyle Schwarber. I've asked this question to other people, and I don't know if I have gotten a straight answer about it, but you're talking about a guy in Kyle Schwarber who looks like he's significantly lost weight. And how is that going to impact him this season? So with all that, with Lauber coming up in about 16 minutes from now, plus another opportunity for you to qualify for the Phillies trip to Baltimore, brought to you by Phillies Sports Trips. That'll be coming up in, I want to say, about 50 minutes from now. But first, let's get to some of the news topics of the day. And that is, I can't believe I'm starting with the Flyers, but I have to, because they had a very surprising win last night. I certainly did not think they were going to win that game last night, and they did. And they deserve a ton of credit. They were literally down to dudes who don't belong at the NHL level, right? Mark Stahl, who has barely played all year, had to get a ton of ice time last night. And they found a way to beat one of the best teams in the NHL in the Florida Panthers. And I asked this question to a friend last night, and I'll ask it again here on game night here on 97.3 ESPN. Is John Tortorella the coach of the year? I really only think there's one other person who can make an argument for being coach of the year aside from Tortorella. This guy has found a way to get this team not just into the postseason, because you can get to the postseason and not, doing the wild card, for example, you can get in there as a 7 or 8 seed. He's going to get in with a team that is going to be in the top 6. And it's a team that nobody expected to be here. It's absolutely wild what he has been able to do and what this team is doing. And last night was a perfect example of, I made the comment to Kevin Durso when I said sometimes the puck bounces a certain way, you get a win. And man, Grant Hathaway, right place, right time for the game-winning goal last night. But Samuel Ersson, he deserves a ton of credit. I mean, the Flyers were outshot the entire night. And the young goaltender stepped up in a huge way. And then what did the Flyers do today? Well, they made two interesting moves. The one move I think stands out more than the other, right? And, Kevin Durso has all the breakdown at 973ESPN.com. But the addition of Eric Johnson, I think, is a great sign for Flyer fans that this team is not bailing on trying to get to the postseason. That they understand that they have a valuable opportunity in front of them. And I know that Johnson, he's not a guy who is, coming with a great pedigree or great numbers, but this is a guy who has won a Stanley Cup. This is a guy who has been around the league for a long time. I think he's been in the league of 15, 16 years at this point. 35 years old defenseman. And while he's not a guy who's put up big, gaudy stats in his career, he was the first overall pick in the 2006 NHL draft. So you're talking about a guy with an elite level of pedigree. This guy at one time was considered one of the elite talents in all the NHL. And I know you're not asking him to be that now, but he is still more than capable as a guy to add some valuable depth to this team's back line. You need more bodies back there. Sean Walker was having an incredible season, and Johnson is not going to be asked to come in and replace that. But he is going to come in and allow this team not to lose their mind while they're waiting for Nick Seeler and Ristolainen to come back from their injuries. This is a guy in Eric Johnson who is just a couple years removed from not just winning a Stanley Cup, but being a valuable part of a Stanley Cup winning team. And like I said, he was a guy when he came up to the NHL, when he was first overall pick, drafted by the Blues, he was considered one of the higher end defensemen in this league. And so now you're bringing that type of experience and talent to a team that definitely could use that type of leadership, that type of experience. The other trade, it's more of a, as I told Mike Gill earlier, and Kevin Durso agreed with me on the Sports Bash today on 97.3 ESPN. Wade Allison being traded for, Dennis Goranov. It's more of a, I need a new place. You need a new place kind of deal. That's really what it was. But the Flyers also showed you that unlike the other teams around them, they are serious about winning. The Devils, this is a team now that has traded multiple players. The Penguins have traded multiple players. The Devils even fired their coach recently. These teams behind you are really not catching up. The only team that's catching up to you right now is the Islanders. If you keep doing your job, you stay the course, you will not just be a playoff team, but you will not be one of the bottom two playoff teams. Now, I don't know if they can move up any higher than what they are right now, but I think the Flyers have become a hot ticket item in this city and in a town where the Sixers can't get it out of their own way. Tyrese Maxey, who's not going to miss another game tonight versus the Pelicans, in a town where the Eagles take over a lot of our conversation next week, right? Because next week is the start of free agency in the NFL. But the Phillies are still 3 weeks away from actually getting on the field. This is an interesting time for the Flyers to kind of lay their claim to the conversation among Philly sports fans. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle. I wanted to touch really quick on the Eagles because Michael Lombardi said something very interesting on the Pat McAfee show earlier today on ESPN television. The conversation was originally about Saquon Barkley, but he threw in two very interesting nuggets into the conversation when he said this earlier today.
Saquon Barkley, they had the Eagles really interested in them. But of their history, Philadelphia has never put money into a running back. They've drafted him in the second round, but they've never spent 13, 14, 15 million per year on a running back. So would they be interested in Barkley at a certain price? I'm sure they would. Do I think they go to 14 or 15? It's never been in their DNA to do that. What's been in their DNA is to sign defensive linemen, which is what I think they'll do as soon as it starts.
Two very important parts of what he said right there. Did Michael Lombardi. Number one, He said it's not in the Eagles' DNA to spend big on running backs. That is a clear sign to me that Philadelphia is probably not going to be in the first round of running back signings, most likely. They're probably going to wait until the dust settles and get a couple guys on those lower tier deals, a 1-year deal, maybe one of the big name guys, the Ecklers, the Pollards, if they don't get picked up, are they the kind of players who are willing to take a prove-it deal come to Philadelphia? But the other part of what he said there is that he expects them to go defensive line. And we already know that there is one specific defensive lineman out there that have a lot of people raising their eyebrow, and that is Christian Wilkins. Now, we're raising our eyebrow because, one, the presumption is that the Eagles should have enough D linemen right now. In the last couple of years, they have drafted both Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter in the first round. They also have Milton Williams on this team. They have some interior D linemen. Wilkins had a career year under Vic Fangio. So does Christian Wilkins come in here, and how does that impact the other guys on this team? Because if the original plan was to go young, why are you bringing in a big price free agent? Remember, the last time they did something like this was Javon Hargrave. Did they need Hargrave those years ago? No. But did they do it anyway? Yes. Did it pay off for them? Absolutely. Could Christian Wilkins be the next guy? Something to think about as we count down the days to the start of NFL free agency. All right, we'll check back in on the text board a little bit later this hour. I see Steve in Ventnor, Jeff in Ocean City with you guys coming up a little bit later this hour. But next, Scott Lauber, who covers the Phillies for Philly.com, the Philadelphia Inquirer. We'll get his perspective on the latest with the Phillies as we are 3 weeks away from the start of the Phillies season. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
It's Flyers Lightning tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Listen as Tim Saunders and Todd Fedor bring you all the exciting play-by-play action.
He scores! Oh, and Tippett goes far down.
Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Flyers hockey all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia Flyers hockey, 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
2 for $222. 2 for $222. Drive home 2 new Kias at Matt Blatt Kia for just $222 per month. For the first time, get 2 new Kias for $222 at Matt Blatt Kia, where you can get a brand new 2024 Kia Forte LXS for just $111 per month lease with 0 security deposit and just $39.95 due at signing. With a price like that, why not get 2 for $222? That's a brand new 2024 Kia Forte 24-month lease for $111 per month, or drive home 2 for $222. Both with Matt Blatt Kia's exclusive 4-day love it or leave it return policy.
It's gotta be a Matt Blatt Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payment. Offers can't be combined. Go to mattblattkia.com for complete details or 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KMF. 24 months, $111 per month, 10,000 miles per year. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Expires 4/2/24. Matt Blatt Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Harbor Township, and on Route 37 in Toms River.
My wife and I both, we ended up mildly sick for a few months, and the nasal congestion was probably the worst part. I had like a post-nasal drip, just super congested all the time. We were taking everything we possibly could, but nothing really worked.
Kyrie was miserable until a friend recommended Navage. Navage offers immediate drug-free congestion relief, flushing your nasal passages with refreshing saline and sucking out mucus, germs, and other airborne irritants. Don't live in misery this cold season. Use Navage so you can breathe easier, sleep better, and feel your best right away.
The biggest thing Navage has done has completely cleaned out my nasal passages. It was from the first use. I was able to just clear out anything that was stopping me from breathing correctly. Navage helps me clear the way, literally clear the way for me to operate better in the rest of my life.
Experience the Navage difference yourself. Navage is available at Navage.com or at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, and Rite Aid. Navage, Navage. AGE.
Tax Talk with Straight Talk.
You give and you give. This tax season, you get with Straight Talk Wireless. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data and a new Samsung Galaxy A15 for just $99. So you can give your janky phone to your kid. Good talk.
Switch to Straight Talk for plans starting as low as $25 a line per month for 4 lines. Find us at Walmart and straighttalk.com. For network management practices, visit straighttalk.com. Device offer ends 4/14/24. In-store activation on single Silver Unlimited plan or higher required. Family plan discount with 4 lines all on the Silver Unlimited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Without the ones like you, who work tirelessly to keep things running, everything would suddenly stop. Hospitals, factories, schools, and power plants, they all depend on you. No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional-grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Taco Bell just dropped the new Cravings Value Menu. Now you can get 10 items for $3 or less, which means you can get the food you want for the price you want. It's almost like you can have your cake and eat it too. But in this case, it's a double-stacked taco from the new Cravings Value Menu. So basically, you can have your double-stacked taco and eat it too, which is a lot crunchier than cake. The new Cravings Value Menu is here. Get it at Taco Bell today. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations while supplies last. Contact store for price and participation which vary. Tax extra.
Do you love a good cigar almost as much as your family? Well, maybe that's an exaggeration, but you can find that perfect cigar at Smokers Haven. With 5 New Jersey locations, Smokers Haven has the finest selection of cigars in the area, like Ashton, My Father's, Romeo and Julieta, Monte Cristo, and more. All from the finest tobacco leaves and hand-rolled by the world's finest cigar makers. All locations are fully open. Stop in and let them help you find the perfect cigar to pair with your life. See all they have and their locations at smokershavennj.com.
A lot can happen between falling in love with a house online and owning it, between imagining living there and breathing in your new home for the first time. Having an advocate who can help you navigate the complex world of financing, inspections, negotiating, analyzing the market, and talking through any anxieties that may pop up, that can make all the difference. That's what the expertise of a Realtor can do for you. Realtors are members of the National Association of Realtors and bound by a code of ethics, because that's who we are.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun. So you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
Now try Babbel free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's BABBEL.com.
The 2024 Hercules Tires MAC Basketball Championships are returning to Atlantic City's iconic Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall for the 5th consecutive year, March 12th to the 16th, featuring 22 men's and women's teams. The tournament is fun for the family, featuring a band jam, Spirit Squad showcase, Kids Day, and mascot game. Don't miss the chance to be a part of the action to see who will cut down the nets and earn a spot in the big dance. Visit maxsports.com/basketball for more information.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Don't forget, we'll have one more opportunity for you to qualify for the Phillies trip to Baltimore. Of course, Maynard's in Margate will be the watch party for opening day for the Phillies versus the Braves, but you can win a chance to go see the Phillies play in Baltimore thanks to Phillies Sports Trips and the Sports Bash with Mike Gill. The opportunity is coming up for you in about 30 minutes from now. Speaking of March 28th, so we are about 3 weeks from opening day, and we are also 3 weeks removed from Phillies pitchers and catchers. So it feels like the perfect time to talk some more Phillies baseball and the state of this team as we get closer to the start of this season. Scott Lauber from the Philadelphia Inquirer joins us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Scott, welcome in. How you doing today?
Doing well. How are you, Josh?
Doing pretty good. So, for you, you're covering this team. You're seeing what's going on with them. And I wanted to look at, because I mentioned pitchers and catchers. What do you think is going to be, for you, the biggest question heading into this season with the pitching staff? Because we know who the people are, right? It's not like there's any great, debate about who the rotation is, who the bullpen is, at least on the surface. But what is a question that you feel like that we will not have answered until the season starts?
I think it's always depth. As well as anyone, right? That you go through a season and you need more than 5 starters. You just do, because guys are going to go down. Things are going to happen where, so-and-so is going to miss a couple of starts here or there. And you got to go more than 5 deep because you've got to fill in. So heading into spring training, pitching depth was an issue for them. So they made a bunch of moves right before spring training, picking up guys like Spencer Turnbull and Colby Allard and Max Castillo. And these are not names that we've talked a ton about in spring training because, quite frankly, you're hoping not to have to use them that much because of how good Nola and Wheeler and Suarez and Walker and Sanchez project to be. So you don't really talk about the depth guys until you need them, but you're going to need them. And so my question is, do they have enough depth? They certainly have more today than they did when camp began. They probably don't have enough because you never have enough. So that's my biggest thing. And, look, some of them have looked really, really good. Max Castillo, who I didn't know a ton about before they claimed him off waivers, has pitched twice and pitched very well. I think he's scheduled to pitch a little bit tomorrow behind Taijuan Walker. I've been sort of trying to watch some of these guys, and, you don't get to see a ton of them because they come in after the starter and all of that. But, that's my big question, because what you're going to get from Wheeler. What you're going to get from Nola. Suarez, they're hoping will pitch more innings this year than he has in the past, but what Suarez is, and Taijuan Walker same way. So really for me, it's what do they have behind their top 5, and that's one of the things that I think they're trying to assess as spring training moves along.
You mentioned Allard. You have a guy like him and Turnbull who are on the 40-man right now. Are those guys potentially lining up, or maybe Castillo? Like, who's lining up then to be the break glass in case of emergency? Because as you said, if somebody goes down, Walker hasn't even pitched this spring training yet. We haven't seen him. He's going to be out there tomorrow. So, if it's, I'm going to start on a random date, like April 18th, and somebody goes down with a minor injury, who's the break glass guy coming up?
So I think their plan is still to carry a long man in that bullpen. So some of that goes to, options, who has options, who can go to the minors, who do they risk losing if they try to option a guy down, who do they risk losing on waivers because you want to preserve as much depth as you can. So look, as we sit here today, Spencer Turnbull's a candidate to make the team as a long man. So is Dylan Covey. He's had a little bit of a shoulder issue, though. I don't know whether that's going to kind of knock him out of that. If he's not healthy on opening day, maybe he starts the year on the IL, something like that. But Covey, Turnbull, they don't have options. They can't be sent down. And so they're probably vying for a long man spot. And I suppose that guy, whoever the long man is, would kind of be the de facto number 6 starter because he's there. He would be stretched out to pitch multiple innings. And so, those are probably the 2 main candidates. But, behind those guys, you've got optionable pitchers like Nick Nelson, Max Castillo, I mentioned before. Allard has options. He can go down. David Buchanan signed a minor league contract. He's a veteran pitcher who's had experience in the major leagues with the Phillies. So, those are the kind of guys who are going to fill out the AAA pitching staff. And of course, the big guy in AAA is Mick Abel, and the Phillies are hoping that he'll be ready to make his major league debut at some point this season. Though they're not banking on it. They're hopeful that he'll factor into the mix at some point, somewhere along the line. He's not a depth guy. He's a guy that they think is going to be a part of their rotation for years to come. But he'll start the year in AAA. And so that's kind of where the pecking order is. I think you start with the guys who don't have options like Turnbull and Covey if he's healthy, and then you move into the ones who you can stash in AAA and they can come up as needed.
Scott, you mentioned about also the pitching staff. You wrote about the other day about what Aaron Nola had to say about, hey, Zach Wheeler. Maybe he should be the opening day starter. And, there's a lot of people who are speculating about, why he said that and all that. But I want to know from you the significance of it because, this franchise has basically had Aaron Nola out there year in and year out for so long now that I remember the stat right. I believe the last guy who started opening day who wasn't Aaron Nola was Jeremy Hellickson. So, it's like the significance of somebody not named Aaron Nola starting is pretty big. And then it's also the guy who just signed the big contract.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's largely ceremonial, right? Like whether you go first or second, it doesn't really make a huge difference in the grand scheme of things. The Phillies need Nola and Wheeler to both have good years atop their rotation. So they can call whoever they want opening day guy, and the other guy is day two guy. I don't really think there's a whole. I think Nola was being sort of deferential to Wheeler the other day in that. Look at what Wheeler's done, right? These last 4 years, he's been elite. He's been among the best pitchers in baseball. You could make an argument he's been the best pitcher in the National League over the last 4 years. He does start game one of the postseason the last 2 years. So I think it tells you that they view him as their ace as well. So I think that was Nola sort of saying, hey, I think Wheeler deserves it. Look, I don't know exactly what they'll do. I kind of think that, their pattern has been Nola gets opening day of the regular season. Wheeler gets game one of the playoffs, if you can line it up that way. And so they flip them. But like I said, it's largely ceremonial. Nola's started 6 in a row. It's the longest streak by a Phillies pitcher of opening day starts since Steve Carlton started 10 in a row. So, that maybe they just keep it going that way. I know Nola very well now, and I don't think it really matters to him. I think he looks at it as an honor, but I think he looks at it as a ceremonial thing as well. And so if they want to go with Wheeler first, I don't think Nola's going to be hurt by that or stung by that at all. They're very close, and I think he'd be happy for Wheeler. So, and vice versa. I don't think Wheeler cares if Nola continues to start opening days. In fact, he might like it better because maybe it means he's not, opening day, usually everyone throws their ace out there, right? So if Wheeler starts game two, I know things change with off days and whatnot, but you're not necessarily matched up against everybody's ace the first month or so of the season. So he might like that better. Who knows? But look, I think they need both of those guys to have good years, and they expect that they'll both be there for them in the postseason as they had the last 2 years.
Talking with Scott Lauber, covers the Phillies in Major League Baseball for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Join us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Scott, flipping over to the offense, I got to start with Kyle Schwarber because, we all presume that he's going to be the leadoff hitter this year. But I don't know if anyone's really talked about this or not. But, from the games I've seen on TV, Scott, he looks like he lost weight. I don't remember a time that Schwarber looked this, for lack of a better term, athletic in a long time. Not that he was necessarily, overweight or something, but he generally looks like he might be the proverbial best condition of his life out there.
Yeah, I think that's a good observation. I had that one. I had that same observation when I saw him. And, it's funny. I talked to him today for a story that I wrote that I think is up on Inquirer.com. If it's not up right now, it's going to be up very shortly. And we talked mostly about what he's doing at the plate. I didn't ask him actually if he's lost weight, but I did remark to somebody earlier in camp that as somebody who notices people's middles, because I have a middle, I looked at Kyle Schwarber when he reported, and I said, looks like it's a little bit less of a middle than we saw last year. Here's what I do know. He had a little bit of a knee issue last year that he didn't let on. It didn't require any kind of surgery or anything like that, but it bothered him more than he let on. So it slowed him up on the bases. It hindered him a little bit in the outfield. That I think is past him right now. His knee feels good. It looks like he's moving better. So whether or not he's lost some weight, I just think he feels better. He feels a little bit lighter on his feet and a little bit more athletic. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to go play left field every day. That's not their intention. Their intention is for him to be their primary DH. Mm-hmm. And I talked to him today about what a weird year he had last year. So he hit 47 homers He scored over 100 runs. He drove in over 100 runs. He walked over 100 times, and he struck out over 200 times. The only other player in baseball history who was a 40, 100, 100, 100, 200 guy was Aaron Judge in 2017 for the Yankees, and Judge hit 284. Kyle Schwarber hit 197 last year. So he had about as unique of a season offensively as anyone in baseball has ever had. And we talked about a few things. This has not escaped him, by the way. He understands that the weirdness of his year. He said they kind of joked about it all season long, like, what is going on here? We've never seen a year like this. Whatever, it's the year he had. And he said, look, two things he's focused on. Number one, he wants to pull the ball less. He had the highest pull rate in the majors last year. 52.5% of the balls he put in play were pulled to right field. He wants to use the field more. Throughout his career, he has used the field more. I asked him why the extreme pull rate last year. He said he just fell into some bad habits. When you're in the middle of a season, as much as you try to make changes and adjustments, you're really trying to just survive, right? Trying to make as much contact as you can. And so he was pulling off the ball. He knew it. And he's made some changes designed to use the whole field more, as he has throughout much of his career. The other thing was, he had more two-strike counts on him last year than any hitter in baseball. And part of that is a function of the fact that Schwarber's a selective hitter, sees a lot of pitches, works deep counts. All of those are good things. But when you get into two-strike counts, you also lower your odds of getting on base. And so he's going to try to be a little bit more aggressive at times, pick and choose, and try not to fall into as many two-strike counts as he did last year. He thinks if he can do those two things, that, in his words, there's more of a hitter in there than there was last year. He said, look, I'm not going up there looking to hit a home run every time up. You don't do that. It's not how it works. I'm a better hitter than I showed last year, and I want to get back to that.
Scott, we all assume, and I say assume, obviously, because we don't know for sure, but the assumption is that if Schwarber is 1, Turner is 2, Harper is 3 in the lineup, who does Scott Lauber think should be the 4 hitter?
So I wrote about this a few weeks ago, and Rob Thompson likes to do the left-right alternate thing through as much of the lineup as possible.
Right.
And so if we use that as a condition that it's going to be a right-handed hitter batting behind Harper, the choices then are Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, or Alec Bohm. And I talked to each of them last month about batting behind Harper. And Alec Bohm said something that resonated with me. He said, the one thing when you bat behind Harper is that you're going to bat a lot of the time with a guy who's on base, because Harper gets on base a lot. He gets on base more than anybody on the team. So you're going to bat with a guy on base. And Bohm said, look, I don't mean for it to be this way. I fight to make sure that it's not this way. But throughout my career, I just tend to focus in better when there's a man on base and I've got a goal in front of me, and it's to drive that guy in. I have better at-bats than I do when the bases are empty. It's not something that I'm proud of necessarily, but it's how it's gone for me. He just feels like when there is a task at hand, like get that guy in from second base, he focuses in more than he does when the bases are empty and there are 2 outs. So if Bohm feels that way, and he is that comfortable with men on base, and the numbers bear it out, that he does hit well with men on base and runners in scoring position, I'm inclined to say put that guy behind Bryce Harper. So that's kind of that's how I fall with that. I know it's not, he's the youngest of the 3. He's the least experienced of the 3. And maybe there'd be a tendency to say, let's put a more experienced hitter there. I don't think they have to. I think Bohm is suited to bat behind Harper. He's suited to bat 4th, and you can slot the other 2 guys down a little bit in the order and make the lineup deeper.
Yeah, because my position on Bohm is that I like the idea of him at the 4, Scott, because I don't think we've seen his best yet. I think he's only going to get better. And I think between him and Stott, let them have this moment. Tell them, you have the confidence in them to go out there, because you could always turn to Realmuto or Castellanos later and be like, hey, we're going to make the switch. But if you start the year by saying this is how much confidence we have in you guys, I just think in my mind as an outsider looking in that, you want to infuse some confidence in these guys.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. And, look, one of the other things they want is a guy who really hits lefties, because obviously, if you've got Schwarber batting leadoff and Harper batting third, when you face a lefty, the onus sort of falls on the right-handed hitters to do a lot of the damage. Not that Schwarber and Harper don't hit lefties, they do, but that's kind of the righty hitter's time to shine. And so Bohm really hits lefties. Castellanos hit lefties really well last year. So I think those are considerations. For what it's worth, though, today Real Muto batted behind Harper. I want to say that happened the last time Harper played as well, or the last time they were in the lineup together. So I don't know if that's a hint at the way Rob Thompson's leaning. It's also not going to, I talk about how, it's ceremonial who starts opening day, Nola or Wheeler. It's going to change a fair amount who bats behind Harper, and it's going to change based on who's hot, who's not.
Right.
Look, for a lot of last year, it was Castellanos, but when Castellanos struggled, they made changes to that. And there were times late in the year where it was Bohm because he was the hottest of the three. So, I think it's going to kind of depend upon, which one is swinging the bat the best.
Scott, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you, and I don't know this for sure, so that's why I'm asking you. Is it fair to assume that Jake Cave and Dahl are competing for the same roster spot? Because I feel like they're two very similar players at this point.
So I think it's between, well, let's say this, all right? Let's assume, and I know it's probably foolish to assume anything, but let's assume that Johan Rojas makes the team, as I expect he will, as the center fielder. I think, and let's assume that Brandon Marsh is healthy and ready to go. He's getting closer to playing in games. He's going to play I believe he's going to get a bunch of at-bats tomorrow in a simulated game or an inter-squad game over on the minor league side, which is something he did yesterday as well. So he's getting closer to being ready for Grapefruit League games, and there are still 3 weeks or so left for him to get in games and be ready. They expect still that he'll be ready for the season. So if we assume those two things, Rojas on the team, Marsh healthy and ready to go on opening day, then to me there's one spot on the bench, and it's between Pache and Cave. I think Dahl probably, he signed a minor league deal, which means he can go to AAA, and you can stash him. You can't stash Cave or Pache. Neither of them have options. So I think it comes down to the two of them, and that in and of itself is an interesting choice. Do you want a left-handed hitter in Cave or a right-handed hitter in Pache? Do you want better defense in Pache? Do you want more versatility in Cave, who can play first base as well as the outfield? Do you need more versatility with Whit Merrifield on the team now? So these are all things that I think that they're going to weigh, assuming Rojas is on the team and Marsh is healthy.
Interesting. So then instead it's Cave versus Pache. So not Dahl because of the minor league deal. Scott Lauber covers the Phillies for the Philadelphia Inquirer. Check him out on the Twitter X platform at Scott Lauber, and check out all of his coverage of the Phillies over at Inquirer.com. Scott, appreciate you jumping on tonight.
You bet. Anytime, Josh.
Josh Hennick here on Game Night, 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. So let's, real quick before we hit the break, two things Scott said that really stood out to me. Number one, at the end there, he said Marsh is coming back very soon. So I think that we can now officially take the what ifs about Marsh and push it forward, right? So if we are to assume that if everyone is healthy, the opening day lineup would be, and again, not my lineup, what the Phillies lineup is. Okay. I wanted to delineate that. But if the opening day lineup is Schwarber, Turner, Harper, for argument's sake, Bohm, Stott, Real Muto, Marsh, Castellanos, and then Rojas, that's an interesting lineup, right? Or do you move Castellanos up? You move Real Muto down? Whatever the scenario is. The point is that, as Scott said, they like to go the left, right. They like to alternate. So if we're factoring in the alternating, and Marsh is going to be your left fielder, Rojas will be your center fielder, Schwarber will be your DH. He's saying that it's Pache versus Cave for a final roster spot, and that really is a preference. Scott laid it out for you. It's versatility versus basically your best defensive reserve outfielder. And he said it, you heard him say it. If you already have Whit Merrifield to be the versatile guy, why do you need Cave to be the versatile guy? I think it's an interesting dynamic there, because my assumption was about Dahl and how well he is forming. And Scott said, look, Dahl could just start the year in the minor leagues, tear it up down there and come up to the big leagues. Not that big a deal. Whereas Cave, you can't option him down. He's either on the team or he's not. And I think that is an interesting dynamic. We don't always remember that these guys have contracts that specify what they can and can't do in terms of moving up and down for the minor leagues. So something to keep an eye on. If the Phillies get closer to the opening day. Speaking of opening day, look, I understand Nola may look at it as ceremonial. And I think Nola understands, though, that for a Philly fandom and a sports town like Philadelphia, the opening day starter is a big deal, because it's something that has been, it has been a long debated topic for Philly fans. And when you think about the fact that, like I said, Jeremy Hellickson was the last time a guy not named Aaron Nola started the season, it's a big deal, because there was a time where the opening day starter was a huge reflection of the franchise, right? I mean, you guys like Roy Halladay and Cole Hamels and Cliff Lee for years. But then before that, it was kind of like a mishmash of guys who were the opening day starters. I mean, did you know that Brett Myers was the opening day starter for 3 years in a row? John Lieber, Kevin Millwood. I remember Robert Person in 2002. I mean, goodness gracious. But before that, you had some other big names. It's like the franchise goes from like big name to small name. They don't usually go from good to great. And that's, to me, what's significant about Wheeler going out there. What Nola is saying is, this guy deserves to be the opening day starter. I want to hat tip it to him. Again, Phillies opening day, 3 weeks away. All right, Steven Ventnor, Jeff in Ocean City. I got to get to your guys' text coming up on the other side, and more on 97.3 ESPN. Josh Hennig hanging out with you on a Friday night here on 97.3 ESPN.
It's Sixers Pelica tonight on 97.3 ESPN with the voice of the Sixers, Tom McGinnis, calling all the exciting play-by-play action.
Harris, corner three, up, hits good. Tobias Harris drains a tree, and the Sixers lead by 8.
Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Sixers basketball all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia 76ers basketball.
Hammers it in. Are you kidding me? He rocks the rim.
97.3 ESPN.
My mom was so tired all the time. And anytime I told her a problem, she always had one solution. She'd be like, you should take a nap. Both my wrists could be cut, and I could be holding a knife. And I could be like, I don't want to be here. And she'd be like, have you slept?
From Saturday Night Live, his Netflix specials, and Peacock's Bupkis, Pete Davidson Prehab Tour. Saturday, July 20th, Ovation Hall and Ocean Casino Resort. Tickets on sale now at theoceanac.com. Pete Davidson Prehab Tour, live.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at getethos.com. That's getethos.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-294-8831 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-294-8831. That's 800-294-8831. What do you have to lose? Call 800-294-8831. Again, 800-294-8831.
I thought people like me didn't get addicted to drugs. That's like saying people like me don't get sick. Just like anyone can get sick, anyone can struggle with addiction. And when you're struggling, there's no shame in getting help. I'm over the shame. I know who I am, and I'm in recovery from me.
Call 844-REACH-NJ. Talk to a counselor for confidential addiction help and see if you're eligible for no-cost treatment. 844-REACH-NJ. From the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
We're going abroad for the first time in years. To Spain. So we started using Babbel.
And started learning Spanish fast.
With Babbel, you can start having conversations in another language in just 3 weeks.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind.
In just 3 weeks, we're starting to have conversations in Spanish. Gracias, Babbel.
Babbel, language for life. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
If there was an easy way for you to look fabulous right now, wouldn't you want to know about it? Well, then you're in luck, thanks to the Look Fabulous Now lift from Dr. Lyle M. Back Cosmetic Surgery Center of Cherry Hill. The Look Fabulous Now lift is an outpatient procedure that can rejuvenate, renew, restore, and refresh your face, jawline, and neck in as little as 2 hours. Patients feel renewed and refreshed, looking and feeling years younger in a natural way. Call 856-MAKEOVER or visit ILoveLyleBack.com.
Something bad has happened to Mom.
Streaming March 14th on Peacock.
Joy Delaney, mother of 4, has gone missing.
From the author of Big Little Lies and 9 Perfect Strangers.
She will come back.
You think we're this big happy family?
I have a confession.
Starring Oscar nominee Annette Bening, Sam Neill, Jake Lacey, and Allison Brie.
Secrets will poison any family, and what you don't know can hurt you.
Apples never fall. Streaming March 14th, only on Peacock.
Hey Flyers fans, it's time to level up your game day ritual with the ultimate power duo, the Philadelphia Flyers and Union Forge Vodka. Picture this, the thrill of the game, roar of the crowd, and in your hand, a glass of ultra smooth, 6 times distilled Union Forge perfection. Union Forge is made right here in Philly, so whether you're cheering at the arena or creating your fan zone at home, make it epic with Union Forge Vodka, the official vodka of the Philadelphia Flyers. Cheer on the Flyers with the best tasting vodka produced right here in Philly. Grab a Union Forge bottle today.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Don't forget, coming up in a few minutes from now, you hear the sounder go off for your next opportunity to qualify for the Phillies trip to Baltimore. Thanks to Phillies Sports Trip, where you and a friend get to go full out catering. Go to the Phillies Orioles game, Camden Yards, the whole trip. Everything is covered, but you got to be caller number 7 when you hear the sounder in about 3 minutes from now here on 97.3 ESPN. If you're qualified, you must be present for the Phillies watch party at Maynard's in Margate with Mike Gill and the Sports Bash on March 28th. Jeff in Ocean City chimes in at 609-403-0973. He says, Josh, some great college hoops on tap Saturday. Which game is most intriguing, and who do you like from this list? He gives me Creighton, Villanova, Kentucky, Tennessee, Kansas, Houston, and North Carolina versus Duke. Well, the game I'm least interested in, if I'm going to be honest, is probably Creighton Nova, because I feel like I already know who those two teams are. I think Creighton is probably the biggest threat to UConn, either them or Marquette. I'd probably go to Creighton in the Big East tournament. I feel like Villanova, they got some difficult questions to answer this offseason. Second least interested game would be North Carolina versus Duke. Great rivalry, a lot of history, but two teams that are way down the list when it comes to the best teams in college football these days, college basketball these days. I'm interested in Kansas-Houston. I think that is a game that is probably going to be a nice little measuring stick for those two teams before conference tournament time starts. But the game I'm most interested in is Kentucky-Tennessee. I think Kentucky's been getting better and better as the season going on. They have a ton of talent, but Tennessee is also one of the best teams in college basketball. And I think that Tennessee is going to be a huge dark horse for the NCAA tournament this year. Anonymous texter chimes in and says, Bohm hits into a ton of double plays. I guess we don't have any other options, though. Maybe JT, but Cassie definitely cannot bad cleanup. Well, Cassiano's bad cleanup last year for a while, and he had an all-star first half of the year at least. So I'm not against him hitting leadoff. I just think that Bohm is a guy that he was so good with runners in scoring position last year. I think he's only going to get better moving forward. Mike and Marmora says, Josh, Russell Wilson's humble pie must go down like nails. I'm fine with it. His high horse as needs to be a reality check. The Russell Wilson thing is a conversation that we need to go deeper into some other day, Mike and Marmora, because I got a lot of thoughts on Russ, but yeah, you're right. Hopefully this humble pie will do him some good for the rest of his career. Stephen Marmora chimes in and says, yes, Tortorella, the Flyers should be coach of the year. My Eagles free agent wish list is Xavier McKinney, Hunt the right guard, and Brooks the linebacker. I would love McKinney. My only question with him is, can he stay healthy? Brooks at linebacker, that would be a smart, inexpensive guy. Devin White as well is an interesting name to throw into the conversation as well. A guy you did not mention there, Steven Ventnor, that I think that we should keep an eye on is, I wouldn't be surprised if Van Ginkel comes here. He had a great season down there with Vic Fangio in Miami. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Fangio guy that they bring in for this system. All right, you know what that sounder means. If you are caller number 7 at 609-573-3776, 609-573-3776, caller number 7, you are in for the Phillies trip to Baltimore contest, where you and a friend will get to go down to Baltimore thanks to Phillies Sports Trips. Phillies, Orioles one of the best teams in baseball. You get food cater, the bus trip, the whole 9 yards covered, but you got to be caller number 7, 609-573-3776. And then, of course, you must be present at the Phillies watch party for opening day, March 28th at Maynard's in Margate, where you watch the game with Mike Gill and the Sports Bash. Caller number 7, good luck. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Sixers basketball next on 97.3.